Hey guys, I hope you are having a very good day. So it's me Siva Prasad and I'm bringing you the course on Science and Technology Current Affairs. As I told you in these short videos, we will be covering important topics related to prelims 2020 and effectively mains also. So today's class will be focused on various diseases that have been in the news in the recent past meaning in the past couple of years. So this will be presented by me Siva Prasad. I hope you have also watched my previous lessons where we have taken up interesting topics related to various aspects like intellectual property rights, various schemes of the government of India related to science and technology. Then we also talk about various space missions, ISRO's own planned space missions and Aditya L1 etc. So today, as I told you, we'll be talking about various diseases in the news. Alright. So let's start with measles. Okay. So there has been measles surge in Kerala since January 2019, indicating that this childhood disease has shifted towards older population. Remember, measles is something that usually affects children, like children at a very young age. Recently in Kerala, there has been cases of measles that has shifted to the older population. Okay. There is no specific treatment for measles, but there is a vaccine to protect yourself from the disease. This is both safe as well as it is cost effective. Alright, so it is safe in the sense like if you take the vaccine, so there is no vaccine induced measles or something, so it is safe. At the same time, it is cost effective, that means it is not very costly. So there is a cure available. Measles vaccine, it is provided to children under the Universal Immunization Program after their birth at 9 months. While National Measles Elimination Strategy, it also suggests a second dose should be given to children at the age of between 15 to 18 months. So that means basically, as per the suggestion of National Measles Elimination Strategy, so the children they are administered two dosage of measles vaccine. So one after 9 months after birth and other one is between 15 to 18 months after birth. Measles is a highly contagious viral disease. Very important, you have to understand what is the causative agent of a certain disease. Okay, UPSC always focuses on this. In multiple statement questions, one of the statement is always related to the causative agent. So it's clear from here that it's a viral infection. That means the causative agent is a virus. Okay, it can spread through air by droplets. This is also very important, how a certain disease spreads. For example, now we are talking about coronavirus, how it spreads. Like यहाँ पे if you see over here, it spreads through air by droplets, and it usually takes around 10 to 14 days to develop symptoms after exposure. So there's a latency period. It takes around 10 to 14 years for the symptoms to develop. Alright, so this is measles. Usually you see this affects children. Then there's this West Nile disease, right? This is again Kerala is suffering from twin problems of underreporting and identification of source of West Nile virus. Okay, why underreporting? Is it because people don't want to be diagnosed with it, or is it because people have some sort of scary understanding of the disease? For example, coronavirus. A lot of people are actually afraid that they would be put into isolation or they would be taken away. So that is the reason they simply choose not to report, or some of them are actually, you might have seen that they have run away from their isolation wards, etc. So is it the same case? Is something similar to what happens in coronavirus the reason that there is underreporting in West Nile virus? If you look at it, the main reason for underreporting is because the symptoms of West Nile virus, it is like fever, etc. So these things you usually end up mistaking for a normal viral fever. So that is the reason usually in many diseases they are underreported. Okay, because the symptoms are most commonly mistaken with the common symptoms you have like cold, coughing, etc. Okay, so Kerala, as I told you, is suffering from one problem, that is underreporting, and second is we are not able to identify the source of the West Nile virus. This belongs to the genus of Flavivirus, which also contains other viruses like the Zika virus, dengue virus, and also the yellow fever virus. It is a viral infection, so clearly this is virus. So the causative agent is virus. It is spread by this tubeless mosquito. Okay, just try to remember this name, because in 2017 I remember one statement about Zika virus was given where they said that Zika virus and dengue virus, they are spread through the same vector, okay, through the same mosquito, right? It was Aedes aegypti. So you have to remember what mosquito it is. यहाँ पे it is Cublex mosquito. Similarly, malaria, I hope you know, it is a female Anopheles mosquito, right? So it's a viral infection. It is spread by Cublex mosquito that can cause fever, neurological disease, and it can also result in death. It can be transmitted between human and animals also through contact with blood or tissues. So that means this is a disease that is capable of spreading from animals to humans. We call such diseases as zoonotic diseases. Okay, zoonotics means something that can spread from animal to a human. All right, so that's called as a zoonotic disease. Okay, it's animal to human. The main outbreak sites are located on major migratory birds route, as birds are natural source of this virus. Okay, birds are natural host for this virus as well. Okay, so that is the reason you see the outbreak sites. The main outbreak sites of West Nile virus, they are usually along major migratory birds route, right? If birds are following a certain path for their migration, so along those paths they end up becoming hotspots or outbreak sites for this West Nile virus, right? So let's take up the next virus that is in the news, that is the monkeypox virus. Monkeypox is a viral zoonotic disease. I just told you what's a zoonotic disease, a disease that spreads from animals to humans. Okay, so this primarily occurs in the tropical rainforest areas of Central and West Africa and is occasionally reported in other regions. So this is usually not a big deal in India. Monkeypox virus is mostly transmitted to people from wild animals such as rodents and primates. But human to human transmission also occurs. Okay, so that means if one human is infected, that person can end up infecting another human being as well. Okay, so not only is it a zoonotic disease, there is evidence of human to human transmission as well. Monkeypox virus is transmitted from one person to another person by contact with lesions, body fluids, respiratory droplets, contaminated material such as bedding, etc. So if they are sharing some items like bedding and all, so that's one way of spreading monkeypox virus, or through respiratory droplets or body fluids, okay, or even lesions. For example, if I have cuts, etc., from there it can spread to the other person. The clinical presentation of monkeypox resembles that of a smallpox. Okay, it's a related orthopox virus infection which was declared eradicated worldwide in 1980. Okay, remember smallpox is considered to be an eradicated disease. Okay, in 1980 itself we have declared that smallpox is eradicated. So this is vaccinia vaccine. It is used during the smallpox eradication program, was also protective against monkeypox. Okay, since there is some sort of similarity, clinical presentation of monkeypox is resembling that of smallpox. Vaccinia vaccine, which was very effective against smallpox, which was used in the smallpox eradication program, it has also been seen to be a protective agent against monkeypox. A new third generation vaccinia vaccine has now been approved for prevention of smallpox and monkeypox. Okay. Antiviral agents are also being developed for dealing with monkeypox virus. Okay, so that means we have some sort of fighting mechanism against the monkeypox virus. But if you look at the coronavirus, the biggest problem is that we are going for symptomatic treatment. Alright, we have not figured out any comprehensive way or coherent way to deal with the virus. We are just usually going for symptomatic treatment. We are trying to treat the symptoms so that we are easing the pains or the symptoms of the patient. Okay, so that's why we are trying various methodologies. For example, as I told you recently, we are trying this hydroxychloroquine as well, which is basically an anti-malarial drug. Okay. Next is acute encephalitis syndrome. This is mainly caused by viruses. Okay, but remember this can also be caused by parasites, bacteria, fungus, chemicals, etc. It is characterized by onset of fever. You will see that fever is usually the symptom for most of the diseases that you are suffering from, because you see fever is something that increases your body temperature. So when your body temperature increases, it is very difficult for the disease causing pathogen to replicate. So that is the reason fever, remember, it's a innate immune response. Okay, it's one of the first responses of your immune system, that is to raise the temperature of the body. That's the reason you see any disease you're suffering from, one of the first characteristic is an onset of fever. Okay, so it's characterized by onset of fever and change in the mental status or onset of seizures. The disease most commonly affects children and young adults below the age of 15 years. Okay, so who is at risk? So basically people below the age of 15 years, that's basically children. WHO classifies acute encephalitis syndrome as a group of diseases that seem similar to each other but difficult to differentiate during a chaotic outbreak. Major acute encephalitis syndrome in India includes Japanese encephalitis, influenza A, West Nile virus, herpes, dengue, etc. The National Vector-Borne Disease Control Program, it has set up a nationwide surveillance for acute encephalitis syndrome with a special focus on detecting this Japanese encephalitis. Okay. So recently, chunky fever, this is also a type of acute encephalitis syndrome. This has affected children in Bihar. It is believed that the children, they consumed unripe lychee in empty stomach. Okay, so this has been the reason that has been cited for children in Bihar suffering from chunky fever, which is again a type of acute encephalitis syndrome. Okay, so to deal with this issue, what is the government of India doing? What are the government responses? A multi-pronged strategy has been adopted. The idea is to coherently converge various schemes of various ministries. Right? For example, we are strengthening and expanding the Japanese encephalitis vaccination. I will just tell you about the universal immunization program and the Indradhanush program. So over there, this is also one of the vaccines, Japanese encephalitis vaccine, protection vaccine. It is again administered as a part of the program. Then we are trying to strengthen public health activities so that they practice hygiene, etc. Better clinical management. We will try to make sure that physical medications are available, medicines are available, and rehabilitation is possible. Then various network will be set up for monitoring and supervising the spread of the disease. Ministry of Drinking Water and Sanitation will ensure that safe water is provided to children, etc. Ministry of Women and Child Development will ensure that high nutritional food is available to children so that we can boost their immunity. Then MHRD is taking care of provisions for disabled children in the school. Alright, so these are various things that the government is doing for dealing with the issue of acute encephalitis syndrome. Okay. So next disease that has been in the news is diphtheria. Recently, there has been a resurgence in the cases of diphtheria, which has been eradicated from most parts of the world. Okay. So it was on the downward trend, but suddenly there has been a resurgence of cases. This is a highly infectious bacterial disease. Remember, diphtheria is a bacterial disease. The causative agent is a bacteria. Its name is Corynebacteria diphtheria. It is common in younger age group of about 1 to 5. So it does not affect you or me. It is usually witnessed in children between the age of 1 to 5 years. It affects the mucous membrane of the nose and throat, and it would include symptoms like fever, as I told you, fever, then sore throat, difficulty in breathing, nasal discharge, etc. These are some of the symptoms of diphtheria. A second type of diphtheria is there, which can also end up affecting the skin. It causes pain, it causes redness and swelling. This is very similar to other bacterial skin infections. Okay, so that means your skin, there will be a lot of pain, there will be redness in your skin, there is swelling also in your skin, right? Ulcers covered by a grey membrane also may be, a symptom that you get to see in skin diphtheria. It is more prevalent in tropical countries. Okay, the diphtheria vaccine, remember, is among the oldest vaccine in India's universal immunization program. Since the Rajiv Gandhi era itself, since 1980s itself, we have been running this universal immunization program where the idea is to immunize children against various diseases. Okay, so one such vaccine has been against diphtheria. Okay, it's one of the oldest vaccines in India's universal immunization program. Cases in country have been going up for the last few years after showing a remarkable reduction in 2015. Okay, remember UPSC has this habit of asking about the trend, right? Whether it's increasing, it's or decreasing, etc. So remember, up till 2015, diphtheria was on the decline. The cases were coming down. The graph was going like this, but suddenly after 2015, we see that the graph has started to increase. So that means the number of cases reported are starting to rise. See, in 2015, as per WHO data, India reported 2,365 cases, but in 2016 we had 3,380 cases. Then 2017 we had 5,293 cases, and in 2018 we had 8,788 cases. Right? So that means it is on the increasing trend. Right? So that's what, as I told you, this is not a steady decline or a steady increase. Then next is universal immunization program. I have been using this word again and again. So let me tell you what are the various vaccines that are covered as a part of the universal immunization program. It was introduced as expanded program of immunization by Ministry of Health in 1978. Later it was modified as universal immunization program in 1985, as I told you, somewhere in the Rajiv Gandhi era. What are the various vaccines that are provided under this? So we have this BCG. This has also been in the news because surrounding coronavirus, certain research indicated that Indians might be more, have better immunity and better chances to fight off corona because of the BCG vaccine, etc. Anyway, there is not much merit to it, even though some research papers cite so. Significant amount of evidence are yet required. It is given at birth to protect infants from tubercular meningitis and TB. Okay. Then there is this oral polio vaccine. Most of you might even remember having that. Hepatitis B. It is given within 24 hours of birth. Then there is this pentavalent vaccine. This is for diphtheria, tetanus, pertussis, hepatitis B, and influenza B. There is this rotavirus vaccine. Then there is this PCV, pneumococcal vaccine. This protects infant and young children from bacterium Streptococcus pneumoniae. Okay. Then there is this fractional inactivated poliomyelitis virus vaccine that is given. Then you are vaccinated against measles also. Measles and rubella combined vaccine is also given. Then I just told you about Japanese encephalitis. So you have vaccine for that also. For diphtheria, pertussis, and tetanus vaccine is given. Then there is this TT vaccine. So these are the vaccines that are given to children as a part of the universal immunization program. So this is to boost the immunity of the children so that they are effectively able to deal with any kind of these diseases, right? For example, if you take the case of polio, polio is not curable, but polio is preventable, right? So prevention is possible, but cure is not possible. That means I can stop you from getting polio, getting impacted by polio virus. But if you get impacted by polio virus, I cannot cure you. Okay, so that's what. So that's what it means. It's only a preventive option. There is no curative option. Let's talk about hepatitis. Okay, so this question related to hepatitis was actually asked in 2019 prelims also. So from what I'm going to teach you, you will be able to answer the question. So hepatitis basically refers to inflammation of the liver cells and damage to the liver. Okay. Your liver cells get inflamed and your liver gets damaged. So there are various types of hepatitis. So let's start with hepatitis A. This is present in feces of an infected person. So that means if an infected person is defecating, so in that person's feces, you will have this virus that is hepatitis A. So this is transmitted through contaminated food and water. Okay, so that means if you are consuming food or water that is contaminated by feces, remember, some parts of India there is still open defecation that is practiced. So over there, the food or water that they might be consuming, it might be contaminated with feces, and if the feces is of an infected person, a person infected with hepatitis A, so there is a higher chance that the person consuming this might also get hepatitis A. Okay, so that's why you see hepatitis A is an issue that is prevalent in areas with poor sanitation facilities. Most people you see they end up recovering after HIV and they develop an immune response also. Okay. This is hepatitis A. Then there is this hepatitis B. This is transmitted through exposure of infected blood, semen, and other body fluids. So that means if you are exposed to the infected blood, a person who is infected with hepatitis B, if you are undergoing blood transfusion or other way of exposure of the blood, you might also get hepatitis B. Similarly, it's in the semen also. That means sexual transmission of hepatitis B is possible. It can also spread through unprotected sex, as I told you, sharing needles, or from infected mother to her baby during birth, right? So that means it is spread through unprotected sex. That means sexual transmission of hepatitis B is possible. Okay, this was one of the statement that was given in the previous 2019 prelims, and this was a right statement. They wanted you to identify the wrong statement. It can also spread through unprotected sex, sharing needles. For example, if you share needles, for example, this happens especially among people who are using drugs, etc., where they use drugs. So in the state of confusion, what do? You end up sharing needles. So that's very, very dangerous. That's how HIV spreads. That's how hepatitis B also ends up spreading. Similarly, an infected mother can also transfer hepatitis B to her baby during the process of birth. Safe and effective vaccines are available to prevent hepatitis virus. Alright. HBV means hepatitis B virus. Okay. Then there is this hepatitis C. The transmission is same as hepatitis B. So just like hepatitis B transfers, so that's the same way. Hepatitis C also gets transmitted. And remember, for hepatitis C, no vaccine has been developed. Okay. So there's this National Action Plan, viral hepatitis, under this National Health Mission. This is launched to provide expensive antiviral drug free of cost for countrywide elimination of hepatitis. right? So we are focusing on countrywide elimination of hepatitis so that hepatitis can be eradicated from the world altogether. So that is the reason this expensive antiviral drugs are being provided free of cost to people as a part of the National Action Plan. Then there is this hepatitis D. This transmission is also same as hepatitis B. So just like hepatitis B spreads, hepatitis D also spreads. It can occur in person infected with hepatitis B virus. That means if you are infected with hepatitis B, then you can also get infected by hepatitis D. It can be prevented by hepatitis B viral vaccination. Okay, so if you take HBV vaccination, so that is also keeps you safe from hepatitis D. There is this hepatitis E, transmission by oral fecal route. So this is the same as hepatitis A. So just like hepatitis A spreads, hepatitis E also ends up spreading the same manner. Disease is most common in South and East Asia. A vaccine to prevent hepatitis E has been developed in China, but it is not available elsewhere as of now. Okay, so whenever there is some update related to that, I would make sure I'm bringing that to you. Then let's talk about anthrax. It is a disease caused by a bacterium that is called as Bacillus anthracis. It occurs naturally in both animals and humans in many parts of the world, including Asia, Southern Europe, Sub-Saharan Africa, and the part of Australia. People they get infected with anthrax when spores they get into the body. Okay, remember this is caused by a bacterium. This is the name of the bacterium, not a virus, it's a bacteria. So how do people get infected? So if the spores of anthrax they enter into your body, you get impacted. So the spores when they get inside the body, they get activated. When they become active, the bacteria they start to multiply. They spread out in the body. They would produce toxins. Toxins means poison, and they will cause severe illness. What are the various symptoms of anthrax? So you can develop black sores. You will have headaches, fever, breathing difficulties. There is even vomit of blood and also diarrhea. Why was this in the news? Why? Because Indian scientists they have developed a new vaccine against anthrax. It is claimed to be superior over existing vaccines as it can generate an immune response to anthrax toxin as well as its spores rather than just toxin alone. Remember, whatever vaccines we have developed as of now, just a second, my battery is running low. Sorry. So it is claimed to be superior over the existing vaccines. Why? Because the existing vaccines for anthrax, so they generate an immune response only to the anthrax toxins. While on the other hand, if you see the new vaccine that is developed by Indians, so that is able to generate an immune response against the spores as well, not just to the toxin. Okay, so that's the reason it was in the news and we are discussing this. Let's talk about sheath blight fungal disease. This is a fungal disease. It is caused by Rhizoctonia solani. Sheath blight disease, remember, it occurs in areas that have high temperatures. By high temperature, I mean the temperature ranges between 28 to 32 degrees centigrade, high levels of nitrogen fertilizer, and relative humidity of crop canopy from 85 to 100%. So in such areas only, so you get this issue of sheath blight fungal disease. Okay, remember, it is not something that impacts human beings. Plants are vulnerable during the rainy season. This is a plant disease. Alright, it is one of the major issues in rice crop cultivation and can lead to 60% reduction in rice. Remember, rice is one of the staple crop of India, right? So because if you're infected with this, if rice plants are infected with the sheath blight fungal disease, the yield can drop by as much as 60%, right? So this is a huge threat for our food security. So that's the reason it was in the news. And remember, these are the conditions for sheath blight disease to occur, and this is a fungal disease. That means it is caused by a microorganism, that is fungi. Okay, not by a virus, not by a bacterium, not by a parasite, not by a any other kind of microorganisms. Okay, let's talk about Alzheimer's. Okay, so Alzheimer's is something that usually affects the elderly people. Okay, and it is incurable. Recently, China is said to have launched a new drug to treat Alzheimer's. The drug name is called as GV971. You don't have to remember this. It has been extracted from brown algae. Okay. But the problem is that this drug has been priced so high that it is inaccessible for certain sections of the population. Okay. Alzheimer's disease, as I told you, this mostly affects elderly people. It is regarded as an incurable, irreversible, and progressive brain disorder. That means it is incurable. There is no cure available. There is no vaccination to cure you. There are no drugs to cure you. It is irreversible. If you start suffering from this, I cannot undo it. right? It is progressive brain disorder. It slowly destroys the memory. Person, they start, forgetting things. They start forgetting things. Then it affects the thinking ability and the capability to carry out simple tasks, right? They will have very difficult time. People suffering from Alzheimer's, they have a lot of difficult time doing the everyday simple tasks like eating, etc. For example, they simply forget to eat. They simply forget to do the routine things like taking medicines and things like that. India has 4 million cases of Alzheimer's, while worldwide 50 million are known to suffer from Alzheimer's. This is a very, very terrible disease. Usually impacts the elderly people. All right. Then let's talk about African swine fever. This is a contagious and fatal animal disease that spreads in the wild and domestic pigs. Okay, so this is a non-curable disease, and it was first detected in Africa in 1920s itself. This is not a threat to human beings. Okay, why am I discussing this? Why? Because suddenly in China, a few months back, which is one of the world's largest pork producers, there was a surge in prices of pork due to this. Why? Because this is non-curable, and this infection, this African swine fever, it spreads from one pig to the other, especially those pigs that are being reared for slaughter, right? The domestic pigs, it spreads from one to the other. So therefore, what happened is a lot of people who were breeding these pigs, etc., they started culling the pigs, okay, so that to check and stop the spread of this African swine fever. Okay, so that's the reason it was in the news, and this is the reason that the world's largest pork producer, that is China, there was a sudden surge in the prices. All right. Next, talk about this wooden breast syndrome. It is a metabolic disorder characterized by abnormal fat accumulation in the breast muscle tissues of broiler chicken, making the meat hard and chewy. Okay, remember, this is not a problem for human beings. This is something that impacts the broiler chicken. Okay, so what happens is there is an abnormal fat accumulation in the breast muscles. Okay, so what happens is when you try to eat this chicken, the meat becomes hard and the meat becomes very chewy. You have to chew, right? It takes a long period of time for you to chew because it is so hard. An enzyme, that is lipoprotein lipase, it's known to be responsible for this wooden breast syndrome. Okay, the findings, it could help drive short-term solutions to help growers manage the conditions in chickens at production level through feed additives or through supplements, or to reduce the number of birds that develop the condition. Okay, so this is the wooden breast syndrome. Remember, this is something, it does not impact human beings. This is associated with broiler chicken. Okay, so just remember which of them are impacting human beings and which of them are impacting animals or birds. The last one I would like to discuss is rotavirus. This is one of the major cause of severe diarrhea in children less than 2 years of age. In India, mortality rate of children under 5 is 37 out of 1000. So this happens to be, rotavirus happens to be one of the major cause of death in children due to diarrhea. Okay. Thus, rotavirus vaccine with proper sanitation and ORS and zinc supplements will help to reduce mortality and morbidity. So we would like to reduce the number of children who are falling sick. At the same time, we would like to reduce the mortality rate. That means the number of children who are dying. So rotavirus vaccine was introduced in 2016 and it is now available in 28 states and union territories. It is expected to be available in all the states. It was expected by September 29. Okay, so there are more diseases in the news. I will come up with a part 2 of this lesson and I will discuss more diseases that I have left out today. Okay, so before ending, I would like to tell you about Unacademy Plus subscriptions. So if you're interested in taking them, you can use my referral code, that is AKM Siva, and you will get a 10% off. Right, this is my Telegram channel. You can get updates about the various videos and classes that I am conducting. And also every day at 7 a.m. I conduct these special classes on Unacademy platform. It is completely free of cost and I take up issues related to current affairs in the field of science and technology, environment and ecology, etc. So if you're interested, you can join that as well. And before going, I'd like to tell you about 3 mega batches that have started for completing your preparation for UPSC Civil Services 2020 and 2021. So these are the 3 batches, right? As you can see, these are in different languages, in English and Hindi. So whatever you are comfortable with, you can join the particular batch and you can get the subscription by going to the Unacademy Plus platform. And also I would like to tell you about Unacademy UPSC Championship. This is completely free of cost and these are curated by top educators, top people who have experience in the field of civil services preparation, like Mrinal sir and Atish sir and Rakesh Verma sir. So this is free of cost and the next one will be conducted on 21st June. Make sure you're registering for it and attempting it live. So thank you so much. That's all for the day. Have a good day.